What is up, everybody? RandomRandomMan here, bringing you my review for Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. Based on the Marvel Comics character of the same name, the plot basically follows Miles Morales, voiced by Shameik Moore, a teenager living in New York City who gets bitten by a radioactive spider and gains spider abilities like Peter Parker / Spider-Man, voiced by Jake Johnston. He also discovers that Wilson Fisk / Kingpin, voiced by Liev Schreiber, has created a machine to be able to see different universes within a multiverse, which also houses their own versions of different spider people. So it is up to Miles, Peter, and other spider people to stop Kingpin from his nefarious deeds. Going into this movie, I had high expectations. This became one of my most anticipated movies of 2018 after I saw the first teaser for it almost a year ago by now, and on the animation alone, it looked amazing. I was excited for that reason mainly, but also for the fact that this is the first animated movie with Spider-Man at the forefront that is feature length and is being released theatrically. Now, as you can probably tell by this shirt, yes, I am a fan of Spider-Man. When I was younger, I was more rooted into the comic book and superhero culture that has now become so big at this current time. And if you were to ask me who my favorite superhero was, I would say Spider-Man. Of course, for the same reasons everyone else loves Spider-Man. So relatable, he's one of us ordinary people who just became a superhero out of nowhere, stuff like that. And with the movies, my favorite one out of all the live action films is Sam Raimi's Spider-Man 2 from 2004. I vividly remember seeing that for the first time in theaters, and wow, I went nuts over it. And as of late, the way Spider-Man and other Spider-Man properties have been treated on the big screen, not so hot. We even recently got Venom a couple months ago, and while I didn't hate that movie like a lot of people did, I did not love it either. I thought it was all over the place, though I was fascinated by its weird and bizarre nature altogether. So now we have Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, and it's been getting a crazy amount of great praise. So far, it still retains, as of right now, on Rotten Tomatoes, a 100% approval rating where not one bad review has been given to it so far. Knock on wood. Well, I don't have any wood to knock on. Anyway, but I was lucky enough to be able to see this movie about a week early as the movie theater right by my college campus was holding special early screenings for it for last night, Friday night at 7 p.m. and today, Saturday at 2 o'clock p.m. And I was able to snag a ticket. Starting out with the cast and their vocal performances, we have a bunch of performers here, notable ones actually, that lend their voices to some characters in this film, such as Shameik Moore as Miles Morales / Spider-Man. Now, this character, he is fairly recent as far as I know. I never read any comics that he was first featured in, though this character, in terms of how he is portrayed in this movie by Moore, I thought he was such a plucky, really likable character, and with how Moore's vocal performance resonated on screen, he is somebody that is relatable, much in the way Peter Parker is relatable to many, many people across various comics, movies, TV shows, all of that. And I'm a fan of Shameik Moore in live action. I thought he was especially strong in the movie Dope from 3 years ago. And just the way he is able to portray Morales in this movie with a lot of gutsiness and overall humor too, which I'll mention a lot more of later on. Yeah, I thought he was superb. Other notable people in this film include Haley Steinfeld voicing Gwen Stacy / Spider-Woman, who is from a different dimension in the Spider-Verse, and I thought she was great here as well. I love her in a bunch of live action stuff I've seen her in, and her voicing Gwen Stacy definitely fit the bill. Mahershala Ali plays Aaron Davis, the uncle to Miles Morales, and he is someone that Miles confides in a lot more than his own dad. Little does he know that his uncle is actually the villain villain, the Prowler, and I love Ali in live action as well. I just saw him in Green Book last week where he was fantastic. He's also fantastic in Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. We have Jake Johnson, who I have to give a big mention to as Peter Parker himself. And the way he portrays this character, it's sort of akin to the Tobey Maguire portrayal of Spider-Man in Sam Raimi's 3 live-action movies. And also just him being more disheveled. He's let go of himself quite a bit. And he's also the reluctant mentor to Miles when this multiverse is discovered where various spider people exist. And the chemistry that Johnson has with Moore in playing Parker and Morales respectively, I thought was dynamite. And just the way he also portrays them has a lot of humor as well. Besides these main players, there's definitely a lot more people to mention here, like Liev Schreiber as Wilson Fisk / Kingpin, Brian Tyree Henry, who I loved in Widows, as Jefferson Davis, the dad to Miles Morales, who's also a cop, Luna Lauren Velez as Rio Morales, the mom to Miles, and Lily Tomlin as Aunt May Parker. And there's a lot more people here who voice some characters that I do not want to give away. But in terms of the voice cast overall, I think everyone here does some tremendous work. The writing in this film was done by Phil Lord and Rodney Rothman. Phil Lord may be a recognizable name to some of you, as he and Chris Miller have been responsible for bringing us 21 and 22 Jump Street, 2 of the most surprising and funniest movies of the decade, and the Lego Movie, which is one of my favorite animated movies of the decade so far. We see a different kind of environment and side to New York City compared to where Peter Parker has been in past incarnations. Miles Morales is Puerto Rican and black. He speaks quite a bit of Spanish throughout this film in some sparing moments, which I thought was a nice touch. His relationship with his parents is also shown off. He has kind of a bit of a rocky relationship with his dad, who's also a cop, but also with him adjusting to a new, more affluent prep school that he is attending. It's something I think a lot of young kids and teens are able to relate to, much like, again, with Peter Parker in past incarnations of his character. But like Peter Parker, Morales ends up getting bit by a radioactive spider and he gains the Spider-Man abilities. And that's when we do get to see a lot more of his character bring out some of the humor of this film. The humor of this film I have to give a big mention to, as this movie is hilarious. Me and my screening audience I was with were rolling and dying with laughter throughout, not just with the characters, but also some of the references that the writing throws into the film, whether it was to Spider-Man's past or anything else related to the story of this film. It really did keep the energy going. The characters also shining throughout this film creates a sense of balance between the comedy and drama here. As, like I said, I think this movie is very funny, but it can also be very serious at times as well. And the interactions between a few characters do feel pretty realistic and grounded, to where this movie is not afraid to go in some specific directions, to where it does feel like it can be something that is portrayed in live action, and the dialogue applying similarly in being fitting and never feeling like it goes to the point of being too sappy or being too far out there to be believable, as I did feel like these characters had some weight to them along with their actions. Now, even though I've just said that the characters in this film feel like they are realistic enough to be portrayed in live action, what cannot be done in live action visually is the animation in this film. And oh my God, this movie's animation style and the designs of all the characters, it is so inventively illustrated with the movement and all-around feeling that you are watching a comic book that has come to life. This is the most comic booky movie I've ever seen. Just the way the ink blotches all over certain images are put down. The texture of it looking like it is the ink on the characters and the way they move and such. In fact, this movie is presented in an anamorphic form, which means that it would be a lot more immersive to see this movie in 3D, which I didn't get a chance to see this movie in 3D, but I would imagine that with animation like this movie would be all the more absorbing because of that. And with the rest of the animation style too, it doesn't just go for one distinct style. As much as this movie looks so unique, it does diversify itself quite a bit throughout. Like with some characters, such as Penny Parker, it looks like she is animated in the style of anime. And then also just with some animation sequences, like when the characters are playing out certain what-if scenarios in their heads, it also feels all the more like a comic book with some exaggerated sayings or actions having some like woo or click text being shown on the screen, like how an actual comic book would show those specific type of actions. It's wow. This movie visually is worth seeing alone for that. With all of the spectacular animation too, it never loses focus throughout its running time. This movie runs at a little under 2 hours, and I felt that this is one of the most fast-paced 2-hour movies I have seen all year. Just the way the direction is handled, it never feels like it is skipping a beat, despite the fact this movie is moving at such an erratic pace. I was always into it. There was never a dull moment. Daniel Pemberton's score was really prevalent throughout and feeling like a classic Spider-Man movie a la Spider-Man or Spider-Man 2 from Sam Raimi. And I saw this movie with Dolby Audio, and it is worth that extra ticket price to see this thing in Dolby Atmos, as wow, the sound and all other design with it really gleams on screen or with the speakers in the auditorium you're in, just like how much this animation style that the movie portrays is so eye-popping with color and uniqueness. Really, I don't have much in the way of issues with this film. In terms of what I would say are some of the more downsides with this film, as minor as they are, they have to do somewhat with the villain of the movie, Wilson Fisk / Kingpin. Now, I didn't think he was a bad villain at all, just somewhat not developed enough as one would expect a villain like him to be. But it's more so because the other characters in this movie do have more time to shine, that it's more of him being a villain that acts as a proxy for a lot of things in motion to take place here. And also this movie, for as fast-paced as it is, I really feel like I need to go back and see this movie again to catch all of the specific glimpses and references that I missed the first time around. As yes, I did say this movie doesn't skip a beat, but sometimes I did feel like it needed to slow down just a touch for me to really bask in more of the glory that this movie is presenting. Really, if those are the only 2 points of contention with this film, and I do think they are very minute in retrospect, then this movie, all in all, is just spectacular. This is probably the most definitive Spider-Man movie ever made in terms of having all that encompasses what is great about this character, right down to the action, which is so exhilaratingly done, and also the wholesome heart that this movie carries, just like what Raimi's films have shown in the past. It is something that I think really is a testament to how the spirit of Spider-Man has been carried through the past couple of decades. He has been adapted onto the silver screen. And in animation form, wow, the opportunities are limitless in terms of what you can do with that medium of entertainment. I am dying to see a sequel for this film right now, and you should stay for the end credits scene for this film. There is one, and there is some hinting of what could possibly happen next. I do not want to give it away. There's also a mid-credit scene of sorts in this film, and it does have to do with the recent tragic passing of not just Stan Lee, but also Steve Ditko, as he did also pass away this year. He passed away over the summer, and both of these men are responsible for bringing us Spider-Man into the pop culture mainframe 50 or so years ago in the 1960s with the original comics he was featured in. And with these two men now sadly being gone, I have to say, Excelsior, Stan and Steve, Excelsior. And speaking of Stan Lee, the cameo that he has in this film, I think it's probably my new favorite cameo. Not just with the added baggage that, yeah, he did tragically pass away not even a month ago, but just how it fits with him and the overall essence and spirit of who he was, and also how Spider-Man is as a character. Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse is now my favorite animated film of 2018. I still love you, Isle of Dogs. Wes Anderson's latest is also inventive in terms of its animation created by stop motion methods, and just its all-around unique design as well. It is also another must-see film, and with Into the Spider-Verse as well, it is one of my favorite movies of 2018 thus far. And come to think of it, this is probably my new favorite Spider-Man movie. You know what? Fuck it. This is my new favorite Spider-Man movie, and I'm gonna say that this is also the best Spider-Man movie ever made, period. I love this film. I highly recommend it. My final verdict for Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse is 4.5 out of 5 stars. Thank you all, as always, for watching. Be sure to like this video, comment on what you thought of Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. Social media links in the description. Subscribe to my channel for more, and I'll catch you on the next movie review.